I welcome you to a fresh episode of DDM Morning Show. My name is Toshku Raphael, reaching you live from DDM Studio with Ibrahim Omar Wase. Ibrahim, you are welcome to the program.
You're welcome. Good morning, everyone.
Today is Friday, first day of August 2025. Happy New Month. Now, here are the stories we have for you today. African Democratic Congress chieftain declares himself national chairman, vows to challenge Senator David Mark's leadership. Now, the question is this the beginning of the end of the ADC? And from there, we move to North America, where Canada joins the United Kingdom and France in pledging to recognize Palestine as a state, a state or a country at the United Nations this September 2025. And finally, we shall talk about the Super Falcons bonus, which has sparked outrage amid national hardship. All right, let me set a scene for today's first topic. A crisis has emerged within the African Democratic Congress on Thursday. Honorable Nafiu Bala, the party's former national deputy chairman and ex-Gombe state governorship candidate, declared himself the interim national chairman. Bala made this announcement during a press briefing in Abuja after openly accusing David Mark's leadership of violating the ADC constitution and improperly handing over the party's structures to outsiders with no roots in the party. Bala asserted this move was in accordance with the party's succession guidelines and condemned what he called political hooliganism and the arbitrary takeover of the party by non-members. He called for the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to immediately recognize his chairmanship and indicated plans to challenge the current leadership in court if the party's established rules are not followed. Now, this challenge follows a series of recent events within the ADC. In late July, Senator David Mark, the former Senate president, was announced as interim national chairman after the resignation of the previous National Working Committee, a decision spearheaded by party founder Ralph Wosu. The move was part of a new coalition effort by several opposition figures, aiming to use ADC as a political platform ahead of the 2027 presidential election. Now, Mark promised reforms focused on inclusivity, transparency, and discipline, vowing the party would not tolerate the imposition of candidates or internal indiscipline. He underlined strict adherence to party rules and collective leadership. However, dissent quickly surfaced. Prominent party members and ex-candidates, including Dumebi Kachukwu and other factions, objected to what they described as the hijacking of the ADC by outside political elites. They argued the party's future was being negotiated without proper internal processes or the consent of its core members. On July the 8th, three aggrieved members already filed a suit at the Federal High Court in Abuja seeking to remove the David Mark-led interim leadership, claiming the appointment violated a prior court judgment prohibiting leadership changes without proper due process. Now, the current crisis marks an escalation as Bala officially declared himself party chairman and threatened legal action. He insists that constitutional protocols must be respected and warned that failure to do so risks the legitimacy and stability of the party. The ADC now faces deep internal division, just as it was gaining momentum as a coalition platform for prominent opposition figures aspiring for the 2027 elections. Very sad indeed. But Mr. Ibrahim, now one question I will ask is this, all these problems within the ADC, for me, they are not, or should I say, they were expected. But let me put the question to you. Is this the beginning of the end of the ADC, as I earlier said in my introduction?
All right. Good morning, Mr. Tochukwu. Once again, good morning, our viewers, and happy new month to everyone watching us this Friday morning. Mr. Tochiko Raphael, the situation within the African Democratic Congress is undoubtedly concerning, but it must be seen not merely as chaos, but as a growing pain uh, common to all evolving democratic institutions. What some may describe as a political ego war may in fact be the bed palms of internal democracy struggles to find genuine expression in a party structure that refuses to run like a private empire like the APC, for example. But the question that may linger within this unending crisis within the ADC is it a fight for internal democracy or ego? Because people have been saying that the ADC is just a pack of people full of ego. Everyone wants to be the flag bearer. So let us be clear. Any political movement that seeks to challenge the entrenched powers must first learn how to govern itself with transparency and accountability. Disputes over leadership, while untidily, are a testament to the fact that voices within ADC are refusing to be silenced or sidelined. This disagreement, when channeled through constitutional mechanism, can strengthen the party's democratic foundation and ensure that no one individual become too powerful to challenge. And the second question is, can ADC still present a credible alternative? Yes, I honestly believe they can still present a viable and credible alternative. And more than that, you have to understand that true credibility comes not from the absence of conflict, but from the maturity with which a party handles conflict. The ruling parties have long clocked dysfunction in the gap of unity. Yet, we see the consequences in governance. If ADC can emerge from this tool with a transparent, people-driven resolution process rooted in consensus, constitutionality, and reform, it will not only survive but become a symbol of the democratic maturity Nigeria so desperately needs. So, in a nutshell, the ADC is not self-destructive; it is self-correcting. The test of leadership is not in avoiding storms, but in navigating them with vision and integrity. If ADC holds firm to its founding values and listen more to its members than to its egos, it can still rise. That's my take, Mr. Tuchugora.
Some people will say that the ruling party is responsible for all these divisions and conflict within the opposition parties, because we know that what is currently happening in ADC is also existing in other parties. Labour Party also has the same problem, and maybe PDP also. So, do you think the ruling party has a hand in this malaise in the opposition parties?
I can't say with absolute certainty that the ruling party has a hand in it. But politics has always been like that. And one thing about politics is not a PT party. No single individual or political party is a monopoly to violence, and no one is a monopoly to virtue at the same time. So I know there's clearly a possibility that the ruling party are trying to destabilize the opposition party so that they will have an easy rise in the 2027 general election. They even showcase it in the PDP, for example, having one of the key players in the PDP serving as the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory is a clear indication that the APC wanted to destabilize all the political parties. And going by the fact that the president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has a reputation of bringing all parties to his side and neutralizing all opposition, when he was the governor of Lagos State. It's also strengthened the fact that there is an element. Clearly, we can't rule away the possibility that the ruling party have a hand in destabilizing the opposition parties in the country. Currently, we have issues, internal disputes in the Labour Party, as you rightly mentioned, the PDP, the NNPP, and now the ADC. So that's why I said the biggest challenge has been thrown to ADC, and how they navigate through this tool is all that matters. So my suggestion to this party is that the party should immediately set up a neutral conflict resolution panel made up of respected non-partisan Nigerians, civil society actors, and elder statesmen who will mediate and offer binding solution. And also, ADC must use this moment to strengthen its internal processes, establishing clear guidelines for succession and leadership tenure, because we have this experience time and again that leadership shifts in Nigeria bring about the biggest dispute that caused the destruction of political parties, because Nigeria is clearly a diverse nation. So we must have to understand and respect our diversity and utilize our diversity towards our group. So this issue of power shift should be given a considerable it should be given consideration, because Nigeria is diverse on political line, religious line, and ethnic lines, and we should respect our diversity. And again, the not least what they have mentioned is that the ADC should call for an emergency national convention to democratically revalidate the party's direction and leadership, ensuring grassroots participation and transparency. Thank you, Mr. Tuchubarafa.
All right, thank you, Mr. Brahim. Mr. Due Process, we have been talking about the current conflict within the ADC, where a new faction has emerged, claiming to be the authentic leadership structure or the head. So, what is your take on this? And what do you think would be the implication for the party and then the prominent figures vying for the position of the presidency?
Yes, I'm not surprised that something is beginning to pop up, you know, when there is a clear case of injustice. The universe is at peace when there is iota of justice done. In the case of ADC, given our own experience from the Kobian angle, I cannot be surprised if there are several other groups that have been suppressed. You will recall that Kobian, for instance, went into alliance with the ADC in a discussion that started the whole of last year until January. And Kobian entered a strategic alliance with ADC. Ever since then, Kobian has invested heavily in promoting the brand ADC as a political party. Kobian has mobilized her members across the country and even globally to join the ADC on a regular basis through Kobian People's Parliaments. There have been series of programs where Kobian spotlight ADC as a credible alternative for Nigerians to join. On ground, across the states, across the LGA, across the world, Kobian has invested heavily, ensuring that Nigerians massively adopt and join ADC. And this began to make a lot of sense to Nigerians, seeing a credible pro-democracy group like Kobian adopting a given political party and telling Nigerians to join a mass. This led to the news of ADC, repeatedly making headline, and it attracted the adoption of the coalition group. And to my surprise, you can see where is Scotland sitting in the scheme of things currently being instituted by the ADC. Of course, Scotland has been sidelined, Scotland has been pushed aside, Scotland has been relegated to the background. So you cannot tell that if this will happen to Scotland, that have a legally binding MOU being sidelined, you cannot tell how other various interest groups in the ADC would have been sidelined. Of course, I'm not in the picture as to the group that is claiming leadership of the ADC. But if I'm only using a Cobden scenario as a case study to arrive that the leadership of ADC are not maintaining the principle of justice in whatever affairs they are dealing with, because they found to have abused the trust given by Cobden. How can an organization come mobilize our members, mobilize the entire Nigerians to adopt a political party? Then at the end of the day, you just relegated them to no government member was even given any position in the alliance, in the NWC that was formulated. None. So if I'm going into the detail of the MOU, you'll be surprised why the leadership have the guts to go ahead and sideline them to this extent. But all that will be coming up as time goes on. But for now, it remains a matter that is being discussed. So I will not be surprised that this is happening to any political party, any group that feels cheated and been sidelined in the scheme of things and decided to hijack the leadership. Of course, in terms of leadership position, the court has always made it clear. It resides in the party to decide. So anybody who is just necessarily dragging matters to court is probably wasting his time. But then, justice is something that the ADC leadership should look into if they really want to win Nigeria. You cannot serve justice to the general Nigerian populace if you are unable to serve justice within your political party, as well as ADC. Before Cobden came in, made it a national political party. Then at the end of the day, Cobden as an organization has been suppressed. So I leave that to you to judge.
All right. I love your contribution. And one thing that you have pointed out is the influence of civil society organizations in the democratic process. But I want you to throw more, light on it, because people are neglecting the capacity and the influence of, CSOs in Nigeria in democracies. Could you tell us the implications that if a huge, powerful CSO like Cobden can support a political party, what does it mean for the election? Or what does it mean for any kind of a candidate being, looked upon as the new leader in any kind of democracy?
The reason for Cobden involvement in politics, as it is, by collapsing the political arm of Cobden into ADC, is just to ensure that there is an eye of the civil society in a political platform. And that is the reason why Cobden adopted ADC. Of course, Cobden made a lot of research and found out that ADC is a political platform that can be, can be adopted from the Nigerian people to actually embrace. Reason being that when we have the CSO group like Cobden, who has also involved other stakeholders in the civil society space in the country, who have also joined what Cobden is doing in ADC to be part of it. The reason is simple. In order to make politics less expensive for the Nigerian people who are willing to contest, who are willing to run for office, we are trying to expand the scope for the young people who may not have access to the millions and millions of naira for expression of interest. In order to make political participation easy for the young people to come in, because what we at the civil society end are looking at is to reduce the cost of political aspiration. Imagine having to pay 100 million naira for one single page sheet of paper they call expression of interest. It is uncalled for, in a political primary. So if the trend is not interrupted, it becomes very, very, very impossible for a son of a nobody to ever think about becoming a councillor or a chairman, not even talk about House of Rep member or senator, governor. So this has actually closed the gateway to political leadership in the country. And leadership should not be centered about who have the financial capacity. It should be centered on character, capacity, credibility, accountability. These are the things that leadership should be centered upon, not upon how many millions of naira you have at your disposal to buy expression of interest from. It is on this basis that them has adopted ADC as a political party. But in this case, the COPDEM itself has been pushed out of the way and been relegated out of the scheme of things. So how do you want COPDEM now to have influence in having a discussion around the limitation of cost of, deciding the cost of expression of interest, for instance? This is the whole reason why COPDEM want to be part of the leadership of the political party they are so adopted, which is the ADC. But then, as it is now, there's no justice that has been done so far. But we are still fighting, and we believe that at the end of the day, COPDEM will have the last laugh.
But do you think this current conflict can affect the candidacy? Because we know that Anambra election is coming up in November. So do you think the current leadership crisis will affect the candidacy of John Wusu, the governorship candidate of the ADC in Anambra State?
No. It has not any effects. It has not any effects. The man is only coming up to cause a distraction. It has not any effects. Whatever has been done is done in the eyes of the law. The INEC were there to supervise the transition process. They were there to monitor it from beginning to the end. From around 10 o'clock, INEC was on ground at the NEC meeting until 8 p.m. So everything was documented and recorded. There is no any room, there is no any leadership paragraph that should give room for any distraction. But what I am emphasizing is that ADC leadership has failed to do justice in carrying along major stakeholders who are part of the ADC development and bringing it to the limelight.
All right, thank you very much. We hope that the ADC resolves the crisis within itself, because we know that one of the fundamental tenets or elements of democracy is strong opposition. But in a situation whereby main opposition parties, the PDP, the Labour Party, the ADC, are in crisis, what party will then exist to challenge the ruling party? Then what we have now is an autocracy in disguise. So we hope that these major opposition parties resolve the crisis and conflict within themselves, so that we pose, a formidable challenge to the ruling party, especially now that the country is in shambles in terms of the economy, in terms of insecurity. So we hope that they resolve this. Now let's move over. Let's move over to our second story, which is another crisis, or should I say a rift. Overseas, a major diplomatic shift is underway as Canada joins France and the United Kingdom in pledging to recognize the state of Palestine during the upcoming 8th session of the United Nations General Assembly in September 2025. Now, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney announced on July 30th, 2025, that Canada will formally recognize Palestine contingent upon commitments from the Palestinian Authority to undertake democratic reforms, conduct general elections in 2026, excluding Hamas participation, and ensure a demilitarized Palestinian state. Canada's announcement follows similar declaration from France and the UK, marking a significant alignment among these Western democracies, advocating for a two-state solution amid escalating Israeli-Palestinian tensions. Now let's have a little context over this. For years, Canada and its Western allies supported a negotiated two-state solution, but recent developments, especially the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, triggered by ongoing Israeli military operations and Hamas attacks on Israel in October 2023, have led to this recalibration. Canadian Prime Minister Carney justified the policy shift by noting that diplomatic negotiations toward a two-state outcome are no longer viable due to expansion of Israeli settlements in the West Bank, political opposition within Israel to a Palestinian state, and the worsening humanitarian situation in Gaza. Now, he also emphasized Canada's intent to stand with supporters of peace over violence and terrorism, reinforcing that the recognition will support Palestinians who favor peaceful coexistence. Now, France announced its recognition earlier in July 2025, while the UK has pledged recognition contingent on Israel's acceptance of a ceasefire and progress towards peace. Other countries, including Malta, Australia, New Zealand, and several EU members, are also considering similar recognition moves. Now, this cluster of Western allies increasingly isolates the United States, which maintains opposition to unilateral recognition of Palestine, citing concerns that it would reward Hamas and undermine negotiations. Now, let's have your take on this, Mr. Ibrahim, because this is some kind of your field. You have been reporting on outside events, especially events in the Middle East. Now, do you see this as, a realignment in the international politics?
Okay, yes, to some extent, the wind of global alignment has shifted. If Canada, the UK, and France, long-standing allies of Israel, are now pledging to recognize Palestine at the United Nations, then clearly there is a global realignment. And as an African, I think Africa must not lag behind. We must follow, because self-determination and the right to exist should be not a privilege, but a right. I honestly believe that Africa cannot afford the luxury of silence when history is being rewritten. Don't forget that it was England that created the State of Israel in 1948. It was the Balfour Declaration that was written by Balfour in Manchester in 1947. That was the, should I say, the justification for the creation of the State of Israel. So if England, Great Britain that created the State of Israel, are now considering the State of Palestine, I think it is a strong message. And once Palestine is recognized by the United Nations, recognized by these countries as a sovereign country, then the war will completely take a completely different phase. Because now Palestine, according to international law, is occupied by Israel. They don't have military, they don't have recognized government. They are just a settlement occupied by Israel. And Israel have been, over the years, expanding their territory on the land of the Palestinians. Recently in the West Bank, and even Golan Heights in Syria. So some people believe there's that expansionism mentality in ingrained in the policy of the Israeli state, because they believe that the land of Israel, who they call the Greater Israel, was given to them by God Himself. So that fanatical belief is so dangerous to the world, because I'm not seeing it as any different from like ISIS and Al Qaeda believe they kill in the name of God, with people who think that God is a real estate agent that will allocate land to them. Don't forget, if you're going to take a historical lens of it, the current Israelites, Israelis, not Israelites, because they don't have right to call themselves Israelites, because Israelites are the ancient Israelite who trace their descendancy to Jacob. Most of the people that inhabited the land of Israel today are Ashkenazi Jews. They were European converts to Judaism. And there's difference between Judaism, being a Jew, and being an Israelite. Being an Israelite means you are a descendant of Jacob. Being a Jew is practicing Judaism. So there are Israelites who are Christians or who are Muslims, and there are Jews who are not Israelites. So even claim to the land, it is only the Israelites that have genuine claim to the land. The question whether they have the right to dispel the Palestinians, and it happened in the 1948 Nakba or catastrophe, sending 700,000 Palestinians out of their home, is still a question that is debated for. But for me, based on personal principle, I don't believe there is any right that any human being has to send another human being out of his own home based on what he perceives as a divine right. While even in the Bible and the Quran, the books that we hold so dear to our heart, when Abraham left Mesopotamia, a place in current-day Iraq, he came to the land of the Canaanites. That implies that before Abraham came to the land, there were people who were residing there. And it was Abraham that bore Isaac and Ishmael. And Isaac happens to be the father of Jacob, and Jacob became the father of the Israelites. So coming to say we are going to take the land for ourselves is a clear injustice. And everybody will agree to that, because there is a difference between a tribe and a state. Ancient Israelites happened to live in the land of Canaan, or Judea and Samaria, or Palestine, depending on the historical time that you choose to call it. But it was never inhabited by single religion or single tribe. So I'm looking at it from both lenses of justice and the political shift in the world. So I can clearly see that there is a shift. Even the countries that stood foursquare behind Israel are now turning over backward on that stand. So that's my contribution, Mr.
Okay, I'll still ask you a second question, but before that, let me turn to Mr. Deepens. What's your take on this? Do you think it's a good development, in world politics or international relations? Western allies, yes.
I wouldn't want to dabble much into that endless crisis, endless humanitarian crisis in the Gaza Strip, because it has become a sensational topic over time across different media houses. What I would say, in essence, is let that be a non-partisan. The UN supposedly ought to have been a non-partisan international agency to have amicably resolved this crisis that has been going on for centuries. But the UN has also failed, because the UN have been accused by Israeli authorities for allowing a direct attack on the Israel from their official residence, official schools. I watched some videos where rockets were being launched from the UN headquarters. UN headquarters in Gaza, where they are supposed to be handling humanitarian cases, and they've been accused of having terrorists as part of their staff or on their payroll. So all this come together, it makes it very difficult topic for one to actually dabble in. But I look forward to a day where there will be peaceful resolution and there will be handshake across the divide, because there is senseless to take a life which you cannot create. I want to leave it at that.
Okay, thank you very much. Now let me get back to you, Mr. Ibrahim. Do you think this position from Western countries, UK, France, Canada, do you think it is coming from the moral aspect? Do you think the motivation is the moral scruples, or do you think it is because of the citizens within each countries, are agitating or protesting or being in support for the Palestinians? Where do you think this recognition is coming from? What is the motivation?
All right. The motivation is clearly not coming from morality, from the place of morality, because the Western society clearly was not built on the basic of morality. When you watch what have been happening over the years, it is not about morality, but who controls the narrative in the media space. I'll give you an example. It was the Western country that started the First and Second World War that led to the death of over 100 million people. It was the same Western society that enslaved Africans. The enslavement of Africans, the colonialization of Africans, which was estimatedly led to the death of over 100 million Africans. Not just that. It was the same Europeans that annexed Australia, annexed America, because the current country called United States of America was inhabited by the Red Indians. And history has it that they eliminated over 50 million people, Red Indians, in the territory called United States of America before they annexed the land. And they killed more than 30 million Black people in Australia, because Australia was inhabited by Black people to took over the land. And Winston Churchill has this famous quote that they owe no Black people apology based on what happened to us, because we will be replaced by a superior race. Clearly, it is an issue of racism. And they believe that they are superior race, right? Fast forward to the 21st century, because it was after the Second World War that we had the Geneva Convention, whereby the whole countries on earth came together and say no more, because a lot of atrocities had happened during the course of the Second World War, ranging from the Holocaust and the deliberate killing of 6 million Jews by the Nazi Germany. Don't forget, the Nazi Germany were also Europeans. And also the killing of more than 1 million Christians in Albania by the Jews. And again, there was also the killing of the Nazi Germany by the Allied forces, because history has it that England killed more than 200,000 innocent civilians in Berlin during the Second World War before they brought the reign of Adolf Hitler to an end. And when the Russian Red Armies marched in Berlin, they raped more than 200,000 women in Berlin. And estimatedly more than 30% of these women committed suicide after what happened to them. Clearly, morality and European cultures did not go in one line. My biggest dismay is the fact that Europeans are the ones now preaching about morality, while clearly they were the one who dropped bomb in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, atomic bomb that led to the death of 500,000 people. So clearly there's nothing like morality. It is clearly about politics and interest. Let me focus on the side of the politics. Clearly, if you're looking at, for example, let's say Europeans are vastly secularists or Christians, right? They are clearly not fans of Israel who are religiously inclined by Judaism, because over the course of history, the Christians and the Jew fought each other that led to the death of a lot of people. Because first phase of war between the Christians and the Jews traces back to the medieval era when we had the Crusade, and the Crusade was a war against the Muslim and the Jew living in Europe. And the first wave of the Crusade was visited upon the Jew that led to the death of over 20,000 Jews. They didn't even reach Jerusalem, the Crusaders. So clearly there is no ideological connection between the two. It was clearly political. Israel gave Europe and the Western powers an access to the Middle East. Middle East being a power hub of the world, producing the vast majority of oil and gas to the world. It is a strategic move for them. So the reason why the European allies and the Western world are turning over backward a bit is the consequence of their own. The people are now awake. So a lot of resistance from their own citizens in protest and even within their parliament. People have been clamoring. Recently, there is that Bob Dylan, an influential figure in UK, on a concert that he chanted, that he sang that song, That's to the IDM, that brought about a lot of question whether England are still aligning with. And it was streamed live on BBC. So there's a shift within their community, and their people are now asking questions. We saw that the reason behind the United States of America turning over backward on the invasion of Iran without achieving their objective was because of the resistance from within. Members of parliament are saying it is enough now that the United States of America stop fighting Israel wars. And let me count the wars. They are clear. In 2001, United States of America invaded Iraq. That led to the death of more than 1 million people. And what was the reason? Iraq was developing weapon of mass destruction. Up to today, they couldn't show that weapon of mass destruction. And everybody is seeing they killed more than 1 million people. They are the morally people, morally upright people. Yes, they killed more than 1 million Iraqis. And that was what led to the creation of ISIS and a lot of terrorist organizations in the Middle East. Don't forget, Taliban was the first terrorist organization in the Middle East created by the United States of America. United States of America are not even denying that. So, and it was the same state of Israel that asked United States of America on their behalf to fight Libya. And we are paying the price today in Nigeria because most of the terrorist organizations in the Sahel were the product of the invasion of Libya because of the influx of weapons from Libya. And again, they asked United States of America to fight Iran on their behalf. So it is now that the Americans say, we are not going to be paying our tax dollar only for our government to be fighting on behalf of another interest. So clearly it's not about morality in a nutshell. It is about the shift in the way their citizens perceive the war in the Middle East. Clearly, the statistics shows that 70% of Gen Zs in the United States of America are pro-Palestine. And the Gen Zs form the larger majority of the population of the United States and the Western world. So that's why they are shifting backward. Clearly not about morality, because they were never moral.
But this September, the United Nations will have their 80th session. Now, if all these Western allies recognize Palestine as an independent sovereign state and Israel and the United States do not, what do you think will happen?
England and France, they happen to be a member of the Security Council, a constant member of the Security Council, with the United States of America, China, and Russia. But the irony here is that the members of the Security Council, the constant members of the Security Council, have what we call a veto power. United States of America used that veto power since its introduction, I think 72 times. And in these 72 times, they used it 66 in favor of the state of Israel, not even their own interests, but for the interests of Israel. Recently, with regards to ceasefire, over 160 countries have voted that Israel should stop the war in Gaza. But just the United States of America alone vetoed the vote of 160-something countries, which made Israel to continue the war. And United States of America are even standing against what they stood for, the liberty they talk about. Self-determination is clearly part and parcel of liberty. And second of all, deliberate killing. I know United States of America, they don't care if they kill anybody, so long as he's not aligning with them. But they are even standing against the moral precepts they are clamoring for in support of the state of Israel, even at their own detriment. So that begs the question, why is United States of America blindly following United States, what's the name of the country? Israel. So there's a theories. There are theories going on that even some influential figures believe in it. Number one is the Jeffrey Epstein file. Some people believe that he has a connection because there were a lot of footages of Jeffrey Epstein in Israel. And don't forget, Jeffrey Epstein was a blackmailer. And I talk about the four variables that manipulate or influence people, which I call the rights, which a coercion is person. So if I can blackmail you, I can coerce you. So he associates himself with powerful people just for the sake of him to blackmail them. And now there is a traces that he was being sponsored by the state of Israel. One. Number two, IPAC is a very, very strong organization in the United States that is sponsoring every politician, every member of the Congress, every strong politician in the United States, so that the United States of America will stand with Israel regardless. It is clearly that directly or indirectly, the state of Israel have hijacked the power structure of the United States and make it very, very hard for the United States to stand against the interests of the Israelis.
All right, thank you very much for that historical account of what is happening overseas. Now, let's take our last story for today. On July 28, 2025, President Bola Tinubu of Nigeria hosted the Super Falcons, the national women's football team, at the presidential villa in Abuja to celebrate their remarkable 3-2 comeback victory over Morocco in the Women's African Cup of Nations final, which secured Nigeria's record 10th title. In an elaborate reception, Tinubu announced a lavish package for each of the 24 players, $100,000, the national honor of the Office of the Order of the Niger, OON, and a 3-bedroom apartment under the government's renewed Hope Housing Scheme. Technical staff received $50,000 each. In addition, the Nigerian Governors Forum pledged an extra 360 million naira to be shared among the team. The celebration, meant to honor a major national achievement, was also marked by performances from popular musicians and significant fanfare, reflecting the pride brought home by the players. However, the announcement sparked a wave of public outcry across Nigerian media and social platforms as many citizens questioned the appropriateness of such sizable rewards in the context of Nigeria's ongoing economic crisis. Now, while there was praise for the Super Falcons' outstanding achievements, many Nigerians described the financial gift as excessive and a sign of government insensitivity. They noted that the country faces rising poverty, record inflation, and public sector workers, including teachers, doctors, and soldiers, struggle with low salaries and delayed payments. The government's decision to reward the team so handsomely, especially when previous bonuses for both men's and women's teams have infamously gone unpaid for years. You know, this was viewed by critics as fiscal irresponsibility and an attempt to distract from deeper problems. Mr. Ibrahim, what's your take on this?
The question is not whether our athletes deserve to be rewarded. They absolutely do. The Super Falcons have carried the Nigerian flag with pride, bringing global attention to our talent, resilience, and national spirit. In a nation often in the headline for growing reasons, they often collectively bring a sense of joy and dignity to our country. However, the outrage is not because they were rewarded. It is because others who also serve Nigeria with dedication are constantly neglected. Teachers who built our future, doctors, civil servants, and even soldiers and policemen put their life in the line. The real injustice is not the bonus given to our champions, but the systemic failure to honor all contribution to the nation's progress with equal dignity. We must stop treating justice like a zero-sum game. Rewarding athletes and paying doctors are not mutually exclusive. What is required is a government that prioritizes fairness, not favoritism. So that's my stand. We have lots of patriots that serve the nation. If we can see doctors and retirees crying for pension over pension and gratuity, and see this money offered to the Super Falcons, then it is clearly an issue of concern to Nigerians, whether the government prioritize these veterans who gave their life for the nation. Thank you.
Mr. Due Process, I was asking you a question. Would you describe Tinubu's action as just and fair?
Well, Tinubu's action, the man that have less to do, have more to throw around. The man that done less, have all the energy to throw around. It's an act of patriotism for these young players to have put their life and time, energy, so resources, ensuring that they get where they have today, that they're able to do the country proud, not just once, not twice. This is their 10th time of lifting the African trophy. And kudos to the ladies. I'm very proud of them and I'm happy for them. But then, the reason why the Nigerian people, and particularly the civil society space, are beginning to ask questions because a country where the citizens are poor, the citizens cannot afford. As it is in Nigeria today, if you have to sample the percentage of household that can afford 2 square meters, not 3 now, we're not talking about 3 any longer. 2 square meters is a challenge, is a mirage across the country. Nigerians are facing hunger as existential threats. That people are even dropping off, falling off on the streets because they've not eaten for that day, probably not eaten for the past 3 days. It's an obvious reality in the country. You see a situation where people who previously were doing well are now facing hunger challenge. That is how bad it is. Now, one will expect that the government that is people-centered should have invested on agriculture, not just the showcase investment they do, a claim back of industry, this, that. No, as in objectively, realistically, investing on agriculture. This is a farming season that is always going. We are in August today, right? As the federal government, how much quantity of fertilizer have they given to the grassroots, the farmers, the local farmers who are providing this food? How many of these local farmers can easily access their farm? The farmland is no more safe. You understand that Benue, Plateau, Niger, these are the hub in Nigerian states, the major states that produce food for the country. These are the three states. Now, they are facing insecurity cases. What is government doing about this? The soldiers that are in the front line, trying to provide security for the country. Their families, the families of those who die in the front line. What is the measure of justice done to them? How much is the salary of the average Nigerian soldier? 50,000. The lowest Nigerian soldier collects nothing more than 50,000 naira as monthly take-home pay. How much can that be able to spend for if a man was probably is married, he has 2 kids? Can 50,000 naira be able to take care of their family welfare? Of course, the answer is no. And that's the reason why they indulge in some of them that are behind engage in various acts of collecting bribes from these motorists. The overall situation is that the Nigerian situation is not designed for the average Nigerian people to thrive, right? The middle class has been cut off completely. As it is in Nigeria today, it's either you are rich or you are completely poor. So, a government of Nigeria that cannot be able to take people out of poverty, the government of Nigeria that cannot be able to guarantee skilled children having access to quality education with the needed facilities. Tinubu should show, for instance, where he has equipped any school since he came on board as a president. Completely build a school or equip existing one that deserve relevant infrastructure for learning. He should show us a video where he has commissioned and provided the needed facilities for these schools. So when you sample the schools across the country, you realize that education is not a priority of this government. How much is the budgetary allocation for the Ministry of Education? So all this come to expose that the government is not interested in those things that directly benefit the masses. Talking about health in Nigeria today, how much is the budgetary allocation? Compared to the show of financial expenditure that they are trying to impress that they are happy with the super Falcons for performing. Yes, they are performed, but then how do you justify a teacher, for instance, that have gone to school over the years, gone to teacher education, he graduated, he sought for employment and got it, and he has been teaching for over 30 years. In 35 years, he's going to resign. How much is his salary? How much is his salary? So these are the things we're talking about. The Nigerian naira has failed woefully. Remember when this government came on board, a naira to a dollar was about 150 naira thereabout. But today, it's 1,000 naira 500, 1,600. So with this exchange rates, the Nigerian people, the Nigerian masses have been shortchanged. The capacity of the naira to buy goods and services have dropped drastically. The purchasing power has dropped. So these are some of the basic things we're talking about. We are not against the super Falcons getting what they deserve, but it's not enough for you to just focus. I want to do a kind of showcase where you want to show the world that you are taking care of your people. The answer is no. The Nigerian government have no affiliation with the masses. They don't care. Look at the state of health. I sampled a video recently where a nurse confided in me that in the primary health care here, they are using touch lines for labor room. That shows the near absence of facility in that primary health care. So primary health care want access to all the testing tools, access to 24 hours power supply, and every other thing that is needed for a standard hospital to operate. But that's not the case. So Nigeria, until the Nigerian people are able to vote in a credible leadership that will look into fixing the current runs in the system. Otherwise, we are not going anywhere. It's not just by celebrating the Super Falcons. Some of them that have been celebrated, being given all this money, they can get kidnapped along the way. So what happened to their security? You know, those who are supposed to provide their security are not being well paid. The police, the soldiers, the civil defense, how much they are taking paid? So these are some of the obvious realities we are talking about, not just in one day showcase and you feel you are doing well. Today, it's all about 2027. When we're talking about governance, providing governance for the people of Nigeria. Those who can, so that Nigerian population can be sustained. As it is today, the population is just dying gradually. And I don't know how many people can even survive with 2027 with what we are facing. So Nigerians are grappling with survival on a daily basis. And it is on this note that I encourage that the government should be very realistic in our investment on the Nigerian people. Invest in education, invest in agriculture, so that people can have access to food. Invest in security. The security has been taking a lot of chunk of the Nigerian budget since 2015 till date, but there is no justification. So there is need to focus on security and dismantle the structure that has not been working. Dismantle it, provide credible security for Nigerian people so that people can go to farm with the assurance that they'll come back home without being attacked or killed. So that's my submission.
All right, that's all we have for you on DDM Morning Show today. Thanks to everyone for your comments. Mr. Due Process, Mr. Wasi, you have all given brilliant commentaries. Now, viewers, if you like this program, do not hesitate to hit the like button, make your comments, share this video, and subscribe to DDM TV. I am Tochku Raphael with Ibrahim Umar Wasi. See you next week for a fresh edition of DDM Morning Show. Once again, happy new month of August.